Jesus. Oh, I don't know what time are we looking at now? 11 o'clock, say 10 o'clock in England. Tell you what, am I ill? It's coughing, sending me absolutely. Anyway, I hope you're all having a good Friday morning. Happy Friday. Good morning, Friday. I could tell you about all my problems, but I'm not going to load them all onto you now. What I thought I'd talk about today is jobs I did when I left school. When I left school, because my mum always worked at Boots in Beeston, the factory. She worked in D6, and then I think later on she worked in D10. Obviously, how it was in them days, it was one of those sort of typical jobs where it was always family what got into the company. So if you had family all there, or mums or dads or whatever, you always find it easier to get a job. They tend to keep it like that. So I started at Boots in Beeston, and I worked in a warehouse called D82. I think it actually burnt down at one time. I think forklift hit a load of aerosols. It blew up. Yeah, it was D82. Well, I worked in there. I was an order picker. Loved it. Used to whiz round, little trolley. Plenty of overtime. Loved it working there. And great, paid good money. You know, all I wanted was my cars and things like that. Paid decent money, plenty of overtime. To get Saturday morning in, and then at the evening, if you do a 37.5-hour week, and then anything over that was time and a half. So I'd always do an extra couple of hours at night, get that extra bit of money in, and then Saturdays, and if it was really busy and they said could you come in on Sunday, I'd do a bit of a double Sunday. Bank holidays. And after I did a spell at Boots, anyway, I did Boots for a while, and then from D82, I don't know what happened, but from D82 they transferred me to Island Street Boots, which was in the central Nottingham. I think you've got BBC Studios here now. And I worked there doing the same thing again, order picking, and called replenishment. Replenishment is like obviously replenishing the stock, and then you'd replenish the stock off pallets. That's how I originally did my back. And then all the boxes, you'd go around doing all the boxes, and you'd get all the flattening all the boxes, tidy it all up for the order pickers and things. Because obviously when the boxes got empty, they just threw the boxes. There was always in the way, so you had to make sure stock was always full. So you was lugging pallets around on a hand pallet truck or whatever. I did that. A bit difficult to do it in a particular order because there were some jobs I did what I would not even going to mention. Some of the jobs probably lasted 2 days. What, you know, these sort of the things where you get these jobs where you think the grass is greener, but it's not. And you realise after that it's just crap. Pardon the swear box. Said crap. Not allowed to. Tell you what. If I survive this cough's going to kill me off. I tell you that right now. It is. It's going to kill me off. Don't know when, but this cough will kill me off. I tell you, it's never going away. Whenever I get like a little bit ill, I get this virus, this sort of virus, not corona. Got no I know you don't have to have a temperature. This I can't breathe. It's going to kill me off, I tell you that right now. I ain't bothered. About that. Probably better off, aren't I? But better off dead, aren't I? And then when I did that, I did Stirlands Market in Nottingham as well. Now I'm not saying that these jobs the jobs what I'm doing later on, these jobs were better than the boots jobs. They weren't. The boots job was that boots, I should have stayed there. The boots was a job for life. I know boots has changed now, but I would have definitely, if I would have kept my head down and not thinking the grass is greener, and coming and going, and then coming back to boots and leaving and coming back, because eventually the companies don't put up with that. They're not going to. I wouldn't put up with it if I was a boss, right? Thinking that the grass is greener, you realise it's not, and then you regret. If I would have stayed at boots and just stayed there, you know, like to do my pension and things like that, I'd definitely say I'd be there to my mid-40s, at least to a 40-year-old, because a lot of things have changed at boots now, haven't they? It's not the same. There's a lot of things, I don't know whether American companies took over now, it's just not the same. So many shops have closed. I mean, Jesse Boot, you know, the original Jesse Boot of Nottingham, it was brilliant. What else have I done? Jesus, I've done rally cycles. I used to be a line worker on there. You know, you get what you need to do, like put either you was like putting the wheels on, or you was putting the derailleurs on, or you was putting the seat handlebars on, and whatever else. I did that for a while. That weren't bad. Money weren't. None of them was paid better than what Boots paid, put it that way. None of them paid better than Boots. But all these didn't really, it wasn't a big issue to me, because all the jobs when I left school, from like, let's just say from getting jobs from like 16, 17, all those jobs until I was 21 was just, they was in between jobs, because all I wanted to do was be a lorry driver. So they was just my jobs to keep me going till I passed my test. What else have I done? I worked at my brother's place for a while, weren't his company, but I worked at Byford's in Beeston, who made cutting machines, lathes, so people who know them, they were there for years. Myford's Engineering, I did that. Used to do metal deburring, couldn't take it no more. Told my brother, so I can't keep doing this. Used to get like bits of metal. When they did the metal, it'd probably be like the metal things what you do for your handles and things what you'd hold on to. And obviously when they made them, you always had a bit of metal on the end, it called deburring, and you'd have to smooth it all off, make it all nice. Oh, after you just do that, your fingers I couldn't take it no more. It was just brain dead in me, that was completely. I did that for a while. But it's quite funny because me and my brother didn't really get on either. What else have I done? God. I think that was about it really, regarding sort of jobs. Sort of boots was my boots was one that really got me established in life, shall I say, with what I needed. But once I got to 21, that's when the bigger money was coming in for me then. And I got, don't get me wrong, Boots paid good money, but it paid decent money at the time. I thought it paid good money anyway. I thought it paid fairly decent wage, plenty of overtime. Hours was steady, 37.5 hour week, couldn't go wrong, could you? Brilliant. See, I used to, when I worked, especially Boots, my dad loved it when I was at Boots. He was so mad when I left Boots. My dad was, it really done his head in, because he knew I was happy, and he knew I was earning money, and he knew that I was sensible with money, because what I'd do is I'd have savings money, what went in me for my cars, for my, you know, that was savings, and then I can't even remember how much I put away then to going out with friends in Beeston for a drink. And then I had my clothes money, so I had my clothes, drinking and saving money. We never paid board. I know a lot of English people, you know, it was something that quite British people didn't. I mean, a lot of people paid board. That we don't do things like that in Hungary. And my dad, were never an issue. So I never paid board. My family never paid board. It's not something what my dad did, and I would never do it to my own children. And I know that, you know, the people will argue and say, oh, well, you're not teaching your children. Say, no, it's not about that. But then again, I ain't taking money from my own kids either. So you can argue about that all day long, right? My dad didn't take it. My dad would never ever take money off me. If anything, he'd give me money. And he did give me money. Even when I was working, he goes, here, son, here's an extra whatever money at the time. I can't even say it, 10, 20 quid, I don't know, 15 quid, 20 quid. Always gave me money. He did it not just to me, he did it to my brother, did it to my sister. He knew I was going out, he says, here, son, here's some extra. Oh, working, but he still banged me that extra 10, 20 quid. So I'd enjoy myself. So, no, we don't do board, and we don't do it in Hungary. It's not a European way. It's not a European. I know Hungary's England in Europe. It's classed as Europe, but I'm going back. I'm relying on Europe as in Europe, the mainland of Europe. We're all England's separate, so it's not a European way. It's not a European way of life. So yeah, I did all that. Then when I got to 21, obviously I got at my dad's place. Dad got me in at his place. Shouldn't have been driving lorries at 21. You're supposed to be 25 for insurance purposes. I got straight in 32 tons, because in them days, in the late 80s and well early 90s, should I say, 91 then, wasn't it? But I'm just sort of saying that they had like went like 28 ton, 32. They were 32 ton, because the gross weight on the lorries went up over the years. As they built the lorries, they built powerfuler engines, better brakes, the trailers got longer. I mean, there was, you know, back in the day, 40 foot was quite a standard trailer, 40 foot. There was some 25, 30 footers with single axle, absolutely horrible they were. Horrible. Like they look, you might think, oh yeah, they're short, but there was somewhere the axle was a bit in like a caravan. Well, they were more in, so they come in, they were fine. The ones that had the axle on the back end, arse end, they was an absolute nightmare. I mean, if you didn't take that corner right, that trailer would just go straight over the curb. You'd be just driving it over the curb, because it just didn't turn. You just thought as you went round, that just went straight across. So that is the reason why, you know, you don't see caravans with you know, always see the wheels in the centre, not just going to throw the axle on the back end. Yeah, of course it's a weight distribution as well, but there was these 25, 30 foot trailers what had them, and so 40 foot was the standard trailer back in the day. So you had a lot were running 32 ton at the time, and then obviously as things improved and more later on, things went to 38 ton, 38, then we was on 40, and then once you start going, then the axles were coming up then to when you get up to 44 ton, like when I was driving and whatever. Well, I'm driving them all, but 44 ton was then we was having your 6-wheeler unit. You'd have a lift axle, some was a fixed double axle, some your unit you'd have either a single axle, lift axle, what you drop, some automatically drop, some you had to drop. You had tag lifts on the trailers, some what went up for 40 ton, so they would automatically drop, or you'd have to manually drop them, you know, your tri-axle trailer. A lot into it. This is what I'm saying, going on about lorry driving, right? There's a lot to it. I mean, once you start pulling the weight, some of these lift axles, you can keep them up. That is breaking the law. That axle's got to be down when you're fully grossed up, when you're fully loaded. I mean, but you'd never drive a unit with that lift axle down. If you drove a unit with a lift axle down, like a bogie axle, lifted it with it down, and you start hitting bumps, you can just bounce the back end, and that makes it all over the place. You just don't do it. That axle should be up. So once if you can lift that axle up, that mid-centre axle, you'd lift that centre axle up. Normally, later on, they were just single tyre. They were single. Some have little wheels, you see them on some tanker lorries. Some have got little wheels, like caravan wheels I call them. I mean, most of Europe are running 40 ton. You don't see many at all 6-wheeler units like in England, where you've got the 3 axles. Well, it's 2 axles, but a lift axle. There is some of the older ones, but I've got the 2 proper axles. And then you've got obviously your tri-axle trailers, your double trailers. But here it's mainly tri-axle trailer, 3-axle trailer with a 4-wheeler unit running 40 ton. Because they used to run 38, then they went to 40. But so many of them, not so much now, but was running well over. When they was loading, they was going up. I mean, if you didn't go on weigh bridges, you know, so many things have to be sorted out when you're lorry driving. You don't realise, like, you'd know when you drove a lorry regular and you had one certain lorry, you'd know how that drove, and you'd know once you felt that you was overloaded or overweight, you would know, believe me. I mean, when I would start at my dad's place and I was driving Gardner 230s, and like when my dad started driving, when I used to go with him as a kid, I used to let me drive up the motorway and everything, and I used to get used to the Eton Road Ranger and things like that, the Fuller Road Ranger with the high and low splitter box on it, and then the Eton twin splitter, fantastic, best gearbox in my eyes. The Eton twin splitter is the best gearbox I have ever driven in the whole world. You know, Eton twin splitter. I mean, none of these you had to double the clutch to get a nice move, get a bit of revs, get it nice, slot it in. Nothing like they are now. These synchro gearboxes, they just slot in now. But now everybody's driving automatic now, aren't they? This is what I said to you. Lorry drivers of today are not. I'm knocking the lorry drivers of today, right? I'm 51, right? I know I look young, right? But the point is, so I big myself up that one. But I don't know how I look like this because I've had a rough life. The gearboxes back in the day were really, I mean, you had some where you had to knock it to your left for your low down, knock it to the right. You had some for your high and low, and they would be like 4/4, or then you'd have another splitter on it. Then you'd have your like the Fuller Road Ranger. You'd flick the button to low, flick it into the right, and then you just go through the gears over the top, go back through the gears again. But I mean, going back to the early ERS, I mean Gardner, going back on engines, Gardner was the best engine, right? Might not have been the fastest of engines, but it was the most reliable engines. And even America, you know, I know you've got Cummins, Rolls-Royce, Perkins. I mean, they bought, I think at Perkins, who bought Gardner out. Gardner, I think it started out in, I think Gardner was started out in Preston. I'm not too sure, but I think it was Preston, the 2 brothers who did Gardner. And the 180, I think it was a 6-cylinder, and the 230 was 6-cylinder. And when they went to 230, they put a turbo on it. They put the turbo on it because that was my dad's. That was the ERF he had. They called the bubble roof on C series, and that had a 230 Gardner in it. Now, I used to fly. That did. It used to 80 mile an hour, 85 mile an hour. No limit on it. And his 180, old 180 ERF, they're just a single day cab, used to fly back in the day. 70 mile an hour, no problem on the motorway. But you had all your tachographs were all like tacho cards and paper ones. And that's when you used to get a lot of people who used to fiddle and stuff like that. Just a lot of the Irish lorry drivers, because they was coming over to England and stuff like that. But a lot of people do, especially agents, so they were doing a lot of fiddling. Naughter, but you couldn't go away with it now. Things have changed so much now, because people used to do like 2 jobs in one day. Some people would work days, early mornings, and they'd go out and do another job at night and get 2 shifts in. Absolutely lethal. I never did it, and I would never, I wouldn't even contemplate doing it. You put yourself on it. I bet many of them probably died doing that, putting them sort of hours in. Even if it was just an 8-hour shift, I can understand if they did an 8-hour shift, did another 8 hours, got 16 hours, right? You could do a 15-hour stint. Obviously you can't drive 15 hours, you do your 9s and you do your couple of 10s. But I would always, even when I was on my last jobs, I'd always try and get my 15s in and do my 13s hours, get me as many hours as I could in, if you wanted the money. But obviously I worked at my dad's place. I did boots trunking with them as well. That was driving the Cummins. I think I had the Cummins. A lot of them where I used to drive, they had Cummins 11 litre engine. They was indestructible, brilliant. They was indestructible. They had what gearbox was in them? A lot of them was like a 9-speed or 4/4. I don't think they was, a lot of them didn't, I don't think they ever did automatics there. I don't think we was even doing the automatic lorries then. So they was all like manual gearboxes. The odd one we had some, we see ERF. Yeah, so you had your ERFs, and a lot of them were running out of sandbatching, were being made in sandbatch in Cheshire. So my dad's company, Stirlands, which were Jack Stirlands at the time, in Triumph Road, Willow Road in Nottingham. They would get a lot of the demo lorries, demo vehicles coming in. I mean, everybody loved a brand new demo vehicle. Oh, that's all right, the new engine and whatever. But there's such a mixed bag of lorries because it was all about fuel efficiency. So you'd have some 12 litres, 10 litres, but we had some FH12s, some FL10s, ERFs. What else was in there? You had some of the old. We had a couple of old Leyland Road trains. I think they were running Perkins engines in them. But you see, all the lorries, they all had completely different. So many had different gearboxes in. So, you know, like me, I never used to stick to the same lorry. Like some of the regular drivers who worked there, because I was doing a lot of agency as well, but I worked for them. But then when I never really had my own lorry for a long time. That was later on in the years when I used to do imperial tobacco with them and everything like that. But you know, general haulage, you were doing all sorts, and they were just chucking lorry. You never knew what lorry you was having from day to day, and you know, nobody was there to teach you. You could go ask somebody, but a lot of the older generations, as much as some of them were alright, there was some of them were a bit stuck in the ways. My dad would help anybody, but some of the older gen, they'd turn around and say, oh, I can't stand all these agency drivers. Now, I understand all that, right? But you can't be knocking all agency drivers, because it was agency what got me in so many companies. But you did get thrown in at the deep end. The money was better, but you got thrown in at the deep end. And when you got to a lot of these companies, some of the older generation didn't want to know. You couldn't even ask them. They'd just say, here's your keys, your lorry's there. Didn't even tell you where your trailer were parked. Sometimes your load had to be strapped up. You had to check all your load check, which is normal, but there was just so much not done. People don't realise this with lorry driving. I mean, you got to think, that's all this what I'm telling you. Sometimes people deliberately didn't fill the lorry up just because they're rushing home. So you had to fill your tank up. I mean, it's all time. You know, you could be half an hour. So by the time you've gone into a job, let's just say, for instance, you start at 8 o'clock at night, you could be easily, depending on what company it is, even if your lorry were loaded, but your trailer were parked up, but by the time you checked everything, if you got a unit of the fuel, easily be 9:30, 10 o'clock sometimes before you even left. Definitely minimum 40 minutes, easy. Because you got to remember, you got to do all your taco card, you got to do all that, you got to get stuff in the cab. Some of the cabs were filthy, some were clean. You know, I used to always leave. I left the cab, I got it right. I am not cleaning, I've always said this, I've not been a one to clean somebody else's mess up. So what I got to the speed, we got like, this is how it used to be. So you'd get into a cab, if it's filthy, you'd go in the office and just say, look, I'm letting you know now, it's not me, the cab's filthy. I am not going to clean that mess up, but anything I do then I will clean my mess up, but I'm not cleaning. You know, and then they'd either come and look at it, then the driver who had it before, whether it was a regular driver, which wasn't always the case, it was because the regular drivers always kept the cabs clean, majority of them, but there was some who was scruffer. So, but you had all this, you had all these problems, and people don't realise. So I was starting all hours. I was doing nights, days, mornings, afternoons. It was just horrendous. Providing you got your 9 hours off, they didn't really give a damn what time you started. Absolutely draining. Your body clock just completely gets messed up. But I did all that, did a lot of boots trunking. Probably one of the worst ones, but once you knew it, it weren't a bad job. I used to do Greenwich in London. And there was certain ways you could go in. You could either go the A1 and onto the M25 and go the back way in. But the normal way is they'd like to stick to the original route, and it was straight down the M1 straight into London. And you just drive straight through London, and you'd go right through the centre of London to Greenwich. Oh, I mean, that drive, you know, you didn't mind if it was, always said it was nice if you did it night time, but a daytime one, oh, I told you that's when I used to have all my problems. I got people mouthing me off and everything. That was just a complete, and if they closed the road off, oh, people don't realise what it's like. I mean, you know, a 45-foot trailer, 45-foot boots trailer, right? And you're just driving straight through London, right through the centre, going over the Thames. It was just absolutely horrendous. So Greenwich was a bleeder, but there was some, like, the jobs I used to like, which were nice steady, were Carnforth. We used to do some trailer swaps with some guys from Scotland. Carnforth up the M6, we used to park up in the services, drop your trailer, another guy from Scotland would come, he'd drop his trailer, just a trailer swap. Straight back, and that was it. Boots, park up, wash wagon down, diesel up, home. Nice, there was some nice jobs. But there was some, but after a while, when you've done trunking for a long time, there were some people who didn't want to ever come off the same job. I mean, I did Carnforth for a while. I did Carnforth for a very long time. You know, you get to know the drivers, you know, sometimes you sit in each other's cab, have a bit of a chat, but then sometimes, depending on how tired you were, you'd get a head down for an hour. But yeah, some of the, you know, we used to do, the Carlisle was a long one. The Carlisle swap was, I enjoyed doing the Carlisle. I used to always go straight up the A1, over the A66, and then back onto the M6. That was a nice run, that was. Obviously, you could sometimes, I think sometimes you could do it, but you'd have a break. So you were doing it, sometimes you were doing it in your 10 hours. It depends on what lorry you had. As times changed, the lorries pulled better, things got better. But in them days, you would struggle, you'd struggle sometimes. But Carlisle, yeah, so I used to do, there's a double run to Boots, which was at Lim Truck Stop. So that was, you'd book the 850 towards Stoke-on-Trent, bang onto the M6, go into Lim, which were Popular Services at the time, well, still is, Popular Services, Lim Truck Stop. You do two trailers there, so that was a nice 12-hour, 13-hour day there, you could easily get in. So that were two runs, so they'd have drivers come down. There was always one or two, they'd run constantly throughout the days. There was always one or two of you went up there, swap with two Scottish drivers, and then when you come back, obviously you'd have your break, back in Boots in Beeston, and then you could do another trailer up there, and they'd come down with two drivers. That was a nice run. Lim Truck Stop, Boots trailer. Jesus. they had Bristol, they had boots depots all over the place. Aldershot weren't bad, that was quite a nice run. Plymouth was a nice long run. You had absolutely load, all your boots depots where the lorries went, you'd go, and not always trailer swap, but there were trailer swaps, but not always like, it was when the Scotland drivers come down. But normally if you went to a boots depot, not a shop, it was a boots depot with distribution centre. Some were big, some were small. And you go, what you do is you were like Dartford, for instance. Dartford was now used to get dart tags in the lorry then. We used to have dart tags on the lorries. So the barrier used to just automatically lift up. For instance, you just go there, you'd see them in the office, you'd say, where do you want the trailer on a bay, or do you want it? They'd either say park it into a lorry bay, or put it onto a bay on the actually on the bay. So let's just say you drop your trailer either way. You sometimes, very rare, this was very rare, they would turn around and say put it onto a bay, we'll unload you now, and you'd go back with that trailer. Majority of the time you would park it up either on a bay or park it up normally into the trailer compound, and then they'd just give you a number, another sheet of paper, another number on. Great, dead easy, lovely. It's probably difficult for people who obviously don't lorry drive. And then you get your number, look for your trailer, straight under your trailer, straight on brake, and then that was it. Get yourself sorted out, number plates on, all your lines on, wheels up, everything, and then you'd have a sleep, depending if you're tired. Or read a book or whatever you want to do with yourself, I don't know. Have a wander around, or go and have a cup of coffee, go in their little canteen. Some had canteens, some didn't. Some you had some lovely hot food, because Boots canteens were amazing. Done lovely food, especially one in Beeston. I used to always go and have my dinner there. Even when I was general haulage, if I ever went into Boots, I'd always go and have my dinner. So you do that, and then that was absolutely loads of depots. So just going off all my Boots jobs, God, I've done spatial logistics, which was air cargo transport. I did air cargo transport, working out of Donington. That was like that run a lot. That was like a run to Wednesbury in Birmingham, just off the M6. So you do a night run with that. So you'd start about 5 o'clock. We had to load this when I got my first proper license. I had a 3.5 ton forklift license, because air cargo, so you're lifting all sorts of stuff, freight. So you'd load your own trailer up, you'd load it, do everything, some man boards, all in big massive metal containers. You'd load that up, big long ones there were, about 3 metres in length, some of them, even longer. And then you'd stack them on top of each other and you'd strap them or whatever. So there was that. And daytime, a day driver would go out and do the day work on the lorry. You do weekabouts, and that's when eventually what they did was they decided to. It was mad. They was putting us on van drivers in the daytime. The nights, another week we were doing lorry driving in the daytime. Then we'd do a night run. It was just mental what they were doing with us all the time. After a bit. So I did that at Donington. Did that for quite a while. That's where I strangled that guy into it, the one who bugged me. God, what else have I done? Express dairies on Triumph Road, did them for long. They were paying me then, God, even then, I'm going back they paid me £10 straight an hour. No overtime, I don't think I got overtime. But it was £10 straight, so if I did 10 hours, 100 quid. But I was always doing 12, 13 hours. And then I'd do Monday to Friday, I'd do Saturday, I'd do Sunday. I'm banging £600-700 a week, no problem there. Because obviously you could, if you don't just going by 10 hours, you could do 15 hours, 13 hours. Always banging £500-600 a week, take home hours. And I'm going back years ago, years. So they loved me there. John Gordon, he was just a really lovely bloke. He loved me to bits. He used to always go on about, he used to call me the Turk. He said, come here, you Turk. He loved hearing about Hungary. He used to always get me in his office, and he actually offered me a job, but I felt really bad at the time because I really liked the bloke himself. He was one of these straight up transport managers who was so genuine. But I really liked him. He loved me. I don't know why he always wanted to talk about Hungary, but then he's come with the Turk. But there's a lot to do with Hungary and Turkey anyway. But there was him. I think he knew my dad, you know. I think he used to say to me, I think he liked my dad. I think he'd met my dad before. Because he did lorry driving back in the day. He was a lorry driver. A lot older than me. He'd be now definitely my dad's age. Definitely my dad's age. So there was that. What else have I done? I've done Martin's Waste, which was running out of Collick, but the company was up in Pinxton. That was ejector work, so that was all landfill sites. I had a 450 Foden, fixed axle, but both would drive. You'd have diff locks inside and everything, and you used to power your way right up the landfill and get used to sting. You'd get immune to it later. Who did I used to work for? I used to run for the company in Collick with the orange recycling. It was actually called a recycling plant, but it was actually called something recycling. Got orange lorries now, tipper lorries, all run around Nottingham. Waste recycle, I think waste recycling is called. I did them for quite a while, obviously with Martin's Waste, they paid the wages. But then I got pissed off because we used to go to one up in, I'm annoyed because I can't remember the landfill site now. It was, you'd go the A52, obviously we'd go a different way. It was just off the A52, and I can't remember the country, the village where it was at. It wasn't that far from, probably about 45-minute drive. But when you used to go onto the A52 to Grantham, when you used to go Nottingham, through Nottingham, you'd come through Stirlands to Nottingham and come to the main island. And when you'd go up to the A52 where they've got speed cameras, I know the A52 travels, I just can't think of the name of this bloody village off the A52 to Grantham. And we used to go there, and then we used to do, I don't know how many runs he wanted us to do to Lutterworth. I think he used to say to try and get 3 or 4 runs to Lutterworth, and I told him basically, because I wasn't doing my 4 runs and breaking my neck, or 3 runs, I told him where you could go, because they were pushing us, but this was Martin's Waste problem. So we used to go to a big landfill, because once the landfills are filled, they've got to find other landfills. This is why now they've got to start burning it now, because you just can't. These landfills, I mean, these landfill sites, some had asbestos areas. Lutterworth were massive. So I did that for a long time. Used to load up, but they would always bang over weight. It was constantly going on the weighbridge. So the big crane would grab everything, push everything down, compact it, then you'd wind your curtain things over to what, come on, you see them on waste, and you have to be careful that nothing starts flying out. Because so many people, you've seen them, haven't you, going on the motorway and all the paper and whatever flying out. And then what also would happen is, if you went to a landfill site and they'd had a lot of rain, you'd have all the big mud in your tyres, because the landfill lorries, they were proper like, they were proper jacked up, really high up. And what they do, they set the front axle tyres out. A lot of Irish lorries do it anyway, just to make it look better. But you'd set the wheels would stick out more, and they put real chunky tyres on. And yeah, I did ejector work with mental. Ejector work, what you do is, push everything out. I mean, it wasn't a job where you could, you've got to be careful, you kill yourself. And going in these landfill sites, you'd be driving, you'd come down these big massive steep hills full of mud, you'd just slide away. I mean, talking 44 ton, no joke, serious shit that was. Not allowed to say that. So I did that. I'm trying to go through it quick because I'm going to be on this video, it's going to be lasting me all day. What else have I done? I've done, what I also used to do with Martin's Waste, used to get to Leicester, for Leicester Council, used to get all your plastic milk cartons. I used to do a load of them and run them into Peterborough. That was a nice steady run. So what he'd normally do is, you do one run to Lutterworth. This is how it works. You do one run to Lutterworth, get rid of your waste, sweep it all out, clean it out, and then on your way back you drop Leicester. It won't far off the M1 at Leicester, about 10 minutes, and then you'd load up all your plastic milk cartons, and then you had to run to Peterborough, and then they'd take it all off, and then sometimes they'd load you up with bales of cardboard, and you're going to take that back to, I'd bring that back to Nottingham or that was alright, but we used to get, just get to loads of places. What else have I done? I did Marks and Spencer's in Toyota, and Marks and Spencer's in Long Eaton. That was the store deliverer. That was alright, but God, some of them were absolute nightmare. The Nottingham one, anybody who know the Nottingham one, where you used to drive around the one-way system, and then you'd come up, I can't remember the road now, but the door was set back down on the slope. So anybody who knows Nottingham, who's ever been in Nottingham, when the Marks and Spencer's Arctic came with a 45-foot trailer, they used to have little low-line cabs. They didn't have big cabs. They used to have the little DAFs and Volvos, FM12s, little Globetrotters as well after a while. And you used to have to back down, but you'd have to go between the buildings. It's like the back end of Broadmarsh. At the top of Broadmarsh Rooms at the top, so you've got the hill, then you've got people, this is people in Nottingham. So back end of Broadmarsh, and as you walk down there, it's like the part of Clumber Street, what I keep walking to Clumber Street. Is that what all that is there? I can't remember now, because we're not living here. I've lost track of everything in Nottingham. But you used to get to Marks and Spencer's, which where Cruise Flannels is, Marks and Spencer's is there, isn't it? So we'd have to back down. I could always back it down in one, I could. But Saturday, they gave it me on Saturday or Sunday. Oh, the people, so stupid. You people, right, realise a lorry driver, we can't see. You've got your kids running all over, we're backing, you've got the speaker going, this vehicle is reversing, because we had to have that on these lorries. You just, don't you realise that we're turning a 45 massive lorry Arctic, and you're all running, going near the cab. I used to get people used to bang the cab deliberately. Oh, I tell you what, you're some of you people, right, you need to respect lorry drivers, because their job is stressful. So I used to do that one, then there was the other one in Nottingham where Radio Trent, has it moved now? So you used to come down that way, Radio Trent, where that old pub is. You had to come down there, take the Arctic down there, honestly, take the Arctic down that little bit of road, turn left at where Radio Trent were facing, you turn left, then turn right, and I can't remember the club, what was the club used to be called in the rave days? The R&B club, there used to be a club on there, but that was another back entrance. This was where Boots is at Broadmarsh, and there's that bit of road that goes at the back of HMV, that would be the delivery for HMV. You had to turn into that left gate, which was on a slope. Oh, that was a nightmare as well with cars. They just went there at the wrong time. So we used to do that one. But there's some Marks and Spencer's, I did them for a long time nights. I enjoyed that. I was on good money there, another tenner an hour. And then time and a half. And then I'm going back years ago, £10 an hour, time and a half, double time, 20 quid, triple time, bank holidays. Another good, brilliant agency guy used to own the agency. So yeah, that was a good job. Paid me well, good money that did. God. But Stirlands then, what happened with Stirlands got bought out by TDG. But I was always on and off with them as well, so I ended up going back with them later on in life, and I was doing their, after my dad died, I was doing all the Imperial Tobacco as well. So I did Imperial Tobacco for a long time. Like container, we used to go to all the docks. Every dock you could think of, we used to go. Hull, Liverpool, God, everywhere. That was Plymouth, we used to go, Avonmouth. Every single dock you could think of where they're running containers, Felixstowe, all of them used to go to all the docks, and that's where they used to have the big massive crane big wheels used to come over you, and then lift the container off, drive away, then you'd either wait and then you'd wait, and then what you do is sometimes you get good drivers, or you get some shitty ones, right? Not allowed to say that, and you then would have to reverse reverse. They wouldn't do it for you. They'd make you reverse to see how well you could stop for their machine to come down. So yeah, did a lot of that. 45 foot eye cubes on that. Yeah, and because we did cigarettes, we had to have a lot of shipping companies. Like we'd have what was it called? MSC. We did a lot of MSC, Mediterranean shipping companies. They had quite clean containers, nice wooden floors, clean. You couldn't have any containers what were messy or dirty. You'd have to refuse it. Then they'd get really pissed off because they knew because you can't contaminate cigarettes. You just can't do it. So we had to be completely dry boards inside. Couldn't have no little holes on it. Because you've got to think when a container's on a ship, all the salt and spray, if it's been rough, salt and spray is hitting the containers. I mean, we had to check our containers. So when they put the container on the lorry, you had to put some of the handles, honestly. No, I can't mess about with spray, try to get spray out and things like that. This was all rush. People are waiting, you've got to get out there as quick as you can because container drive, if you want to fall out with somebody, do container work. Because I fell out with many people. You get into fights dead easy. You used to pull up and do that and you go, and you just pull it and it won't come and you fucking smack it. Because all the salt is sprayed where they'd come from, depending where the container come from. Some you had to, they were that bad you had to drop your arse end, drop all your air on your trailer so you could do it because they were that high up, some of them, and if they wouldn't undo you'd have to really get a bar in or you'd have to really try and pull it. Oh, absolute nightmare. You'd smack it with your gloves. I used to get here, but I do it a lot here, it was like bruised, my hand eventually. Your hand just got solid there because you're constantly doing that, banging, pushing the bar back, and when you push the bar back, you slumped it back down and put your clip on. And obviously, yeah, did all that. Container work was alright, but it was also a pain in the arse. Some people like container work, but I didn't like it it depended which dock you went to. Hull docks, oh, that was a nightmare. Always problems finding your container, and the queues was absolutely horrendous. The queues. This is what I'm saying about lorry driving. People don't realise how long you're hanging about, just queuing, and you're driving hours. I mean, if you've got fags on, this is another thing. If you've got fags on, right, you can't park up. You know that. We're not allowed to park up with cigarettes. Can't do that. There's no nighting out with cigarettes in the lay-by or services. None of that. The only way you do that, you would have to phone up, and then they would make sure before your hours, then they would make you go to a secure. There used to be a place we used to go to. I'm not going to mention it, the place, because it doesn't make no difference now because they're finished. But it used to be off the M1. I can't remember it now. I think it was up near Sheffield. There used to be a place there, and we used to be Irish company. What was the name? Was it Curry's? Was it Curry's European? We used to park up in their big compound there. I've got to quote me on that because I can't even remember because it's so many years ago now, and I'm doing a video and I'm not writing everything down, so I can't really remember. But we used to, not Curry's European. It used to be another company in Nottingham who used to do the red and white lorries. They used to have ID codes, Stratos and everything. Oh, I can't even remember it. Yeah, we used to park at their depot, that was it. We used to park at they had a depot up north, and we used to park there for the night. It was all secure compound, proper lock gates, everything. Because they used to have a cigarette factory, little cigarette area there. So we did that. So my dogs would come and see me. See you, Hunter. Hey, look, baby. I know, I love you too. So, yeah, did that, and obviously, cutting it short now, as time went on, obviously I we went to my dad's place. The fag place was brilliant. We used to go to a cigarette place. We used to go to all your wholesalers, like you have in Nottingham. Do you know what? It's that long I can't even remember them now. All your proper wholesalers, we did all them. So they'd be all over the option, all over the country, everywhere. We did all them, and we used to go to one near Lake, so I used to get in there, get my cigarettes off. If I'm coming back empty, and I'd go and park up near Lake and watch the jets taking on and off. But yeah, I did that for years, and my last job obviously was Toyota material handling before I packed up lorry driving. And obviously with them, going on about, because it were forklifts, you did it. That job was for me, that was like the amazing job, because we did Formula 1 racetracks, we did everywhere, because some of these companies who was lifting cars off the trailers, they needed forklifts, so everybody had Toyota forklifts. So we used to do every army base, RAF air base you could think of. We did them all. Did Lakenheath, did the ones in Cambridge, in Norfolk. I used to do all of them. Peterborough, did absolutely loads of them. We did them all over the country. We did all the. I used to talk to them, get on there. We used to really mix that with some of these office people who worked in the army people. But you'd go in there, but some were alright, some were a bit of a pain. You'd be waiting around. You know, like when they've got a forklift, what they finish with, because what they do, they'd have our forklifts for training their soldiers to drive forklifts. So we'd probably say, right, here's a forklift, and here's, say, 3 or 4 gas bowls. So we'd have to make sure, and there was always, you can always bet your 10 to a dime, there's always gas bottles what they didn't return, and they'd have to go looking for them. And then they'd say, oh, we can't find that gas bottle, so then we'd have to write it all down for the paperwork. Because if you did that with every company, a gas bottle, I know it might not seem like nothing, but it's still money at the end of the day, and it all mounts up. So we did all that. That Toyota we used to go out. I loved Imperial Tobacco, don't get me wrong, I loved working at my dad's place. I loved doing the cigarettes. Dangerous, used to love that, get hijacked everything, get murdered doing that job. If you wrong criminal gangs in Liverpool everywhere. People used to set roadblocks up, false roadblocks. You had cars you didn't, police couldn't just stop you, police weren't allowed to stop you. Police couldn't be started, helicopters, that job was unbelievable. If you want security, we used to have codes, everything, you couldn't do, it was nothing like what you think. You were proper, talking a lot of money, talking a couple of million, £3 million worth of cigarettes. But the Toyota job, you do everything with that. Everywhere, you go everywhere, you get small shops, some people want stamp pallets, some people want 7-ton forklifts, all the distribution centres, they'd have a load of forklifts, or they'd have a load of them picking forklifts dead long, where you get 2 or 3 pallets on, then you'd have the ones with the big masts, then we'd have to meet engineers. We'd have to meet Toyota engineers with the vans, they'd come there at meters for the mast what goes dead high in these distribution centres, you couldn't just leave that on the lorry, because it's massive, wasn't it? It'd be sticking out the top of your roof of your trailer. Because our trailers, curtains fully opened, plus the roof fully opened, so we'd have masts, on a normal fork, we'd have the mast sometimes sticking out. Obviously we'd have to measure everything. Everything had to be measured. You'd have a ramp at the front, what automatically hydraulic come up. We'd drop a forklift at the front. Everything what was involved with that, we had to weigh it up. Axle weights, every single thing. Not like just dropping a pallet on, 1-ton pallet. We're talking forklifts. The gross weight, we'd have to look at the VIN plate, know exactly the weight, kilograms, everything. You got your batteries, we had to pick batteries up, chargers. That's another reason I did my back. I moved a 70-kilogram charger on my trailer, and we had like mesh floor, steel floor, so the forklifts get grip when it's wet, because when the ramp come down. And I went to move this charger. As I moved it, wiggled it, it jolted, and it got one of the ridges underneath it, because it was flat. Because what you do with some of these chargers, you could screw them to these concrete floors in these warehouses. And the little metal flat bit got stuck in one of the ridges, and I went like that to lift it and turn it, my back went, and that's how I did my back in again. And yeah, it was a good job. Did all your racetracks, Silverstone, everywhere, Donington, Everybody had forklifts. I think everybody has forklifts, don't they? Builders merchants. Some of the builders merchants were a pain. I remember we used to do all John A. Stevenson's in Nottingham, where my ex-wife's brother worked. We used to go there. They used to have big forklifts, off 3.5 tonners, 2.5 tonners. Everywhere used to do all year, which I didn't like. They used to do all the slaughterhouses. They used to have mainly pump trucks off us, like 100 pump trucks. I mean, you're sending brand new, spanking new pump trucks. You'd pick them up, I don't know how many months later. Oh, you just won't believe the wheels rang out. Some didn't have wheels because they're rusted, because it's all water and cold, isn't it? You're constantly washing them down. Blood and oh, I don't even want to go into that. That was a good job. I mean, you pick up dead forklifts. Some forklifts, if you go, some forklifts had set on fire. Some of the engines are completely knackered up. Then what you'd have to do is, you had a winch on it as well. And if the brakes wasn't seized, you'd put it on, steer it, and you'd winch the forklift up and everything. And if the brakes had seized on it, you'd have to say, it was all some type of trial and error. You get to some places and say, you'd go and then you couldn't do anything. And the company hadn't told our company, Toyota, that say the brakes are seized. So we didn't go with a bigger forklift, because if it's a 3.5 ton forklift, the gross weight you're looking around 6 ton, 5-6 ton. So you need like a 7 ton forklift to lift it, or 8 ton, and you'd be lifting these forklifts up and loading them on through the side, through the curtain, or you drive up the ramp. I mean, it's not so you can't be messing about. All had to be strapped down proper. You'd have all your batteries, a nightmare, because if battery goes over, acid is all over. So you can't piss about. So when the batteries were, if we did it, we'd make sure that they're put on pallets. The idea was, when you get a battery, an engineer is supposed to go on site, make sure the battery's been put on the pallet and it's on a strong enough pallet. Some of them are dumping them on shitty pallets, and it got to the stage where we had to refuse them because they were putting them on crap pallets. We were then strapping them down, talking 200 or 300 kilos, strapping them down, and the battery was just breaking the pallets. Easily go over in the lorry. You just couldn't mess about. And everything has to be done for when you have to brake hard in an emergency. So you can't think, well, I'm not going to brake hard, because life ain't like that. You don't know what's going to happen if you're in an accident, or you've got a kid, a car pulls out in front of you, you've got to slam your brakes on. So you can't have a battery, 300 kilo or forklift flying through your curtain in your lorry. Everything had to be done. You'd pick forks up. Some forks were long, some forks were short. Any sort of what we call material handling, what we dealt with for lifting equipment, we dealt with. Sometimes we was picking up, in the warehouses, what you see like street cleaners, what go around cleaning the floors in like stores and shops. We'd even pick them up. We'd pick anything up. Sometimes we'd pick things up, or even anything to do with forklifts. But that was a good job. But the only problem is you have to make sure. That's why I've got, like, even now I've still got it. I've got 7.5 metre tape measure for measuring mass. Because you just can't, with magnet on, because you have to go and measure the mass and everything when it's sticking out the trailer. And then sometimes the mass were really long for the distribution centres, you'd lay them down flat. Sometimes I'd go out with two distribution forklifts. So I'd drop one on my front end, or 2 on my front end close together, or one on the back end. I'd have 2 big masts lying down. Yeah, but that was a good job. But they're the sort of jobs I used to do. But Toyota was probably most sort of, I say, exciting, because it was so different. No day was ever the same. You don't even know what you're picking up. Some drivers say, I couldn't pick that up, or they didn't have the room, so they say, you've got to go and do it. But that job, you went everywhere. We did loads of farms, potatoes, Lincolnshire. We did loads of it, every risk to all the farm places. And majority of farm people always have 3.5 ton forklifts for picking up the big potato crates and things like that. That's where I used to say to you, it's where we used to see all these Europeans, Ukraine and Polish, everybody. They used to do all the field picking for the farmers. That was alright job. But you used to go down some country lanes, what you just wouldn't even think a lorry could ever go down. You'd take the old lot up and a car would be coming your way. And it was probably like, I don't know how many miles. So you'd have cars driving up grass embankments and it'd be at an angle, or you'd have to go over there and you'd have to watch you don't damage your lorry. I mean, you couldn't reverse it. Absolute nightmare. Your mask and everything sticking out, your trailer was hitting trees. You'd come back some days with your trailer undone and you would have half a forest inside your trailer. Oh, you know, bugs everywhere. Absolute nightmare. I mean, some people have in the past, they've hit bridges with them big masks. Stupid bridges, but sometimes, see, what you got to realise, what people don't realise, when you've been with some of these bridges, not always on the motorway, but a lot of bridges on some of these A roads, what people don't realise is car drivers who don't have anything to do with lorries, when the road surface has been damaged and they resurfaced the road, some of it's not been measured proper. So whereas that bridge might be 14.6, 14.2 or whatever, or 13.9 or 13.6, if that road's been resurfaced, it's not even that. And a lot of people don't know about all this. Things when the surface, the road's been surfaced and it took inches away. It took inches away from the bridge height. There's all these little things you have to be careful of. I mean, I've looked at some bridges and thought, I ain't getting that under there. And honestly, you're not going to get it under there. It won't go under there, I'm telling you that. And you've got to remember, it's the centre of the bridge, so you've got your side bits as well. Some of these bridges are really low. This is why when you've got things sticking out your trailer, it's not things to be took lightly. It's a real serious job. So yeah, I used to do all that. But until I had to come into my retirement, and I've had to put it all behind me. But yeah, really good job that was. Enjoyed it. I mean, when you used to get to the army bases, they used to put big lights underneath your. You used to go underneath to check all your trailer and everything, bombs and stuff like that. You had to have loads of security. You used to take loads of ID with you and everything, because they wouldn't let you in. But anyway, I hope you'll all enjoy your Friday. A little bit of information for you, a bit of my life and my jobs. Not gone into everything to full detail, but bit different, for a Friday. Because I've got a lot on my plate, so I thought I'd just try and bang this one in for you. So enjoy the rest of your Friday, alright? And I'll see you later.